Alright. Time to have the talk. When I said yesterday, listen to Tucker. Don't send your nudes to Facebook. Send them to me. That was the punchline of the whole video. That was the throughout the whole video. I told you what a bad idea it is to even just take naked pictures of yourself with your phone. Let alone to send them to people. I said don't do that. Under any circumstances, don't do that. And then I said send them. It was a joke. It was the punchline of the whole. It was. So, actually, a surprising number of you didn't get it. So, don't, under no circumstances, don't send me naked pictures of yourself. Because, see, alright, here's the thing. I'm not really some guy, right? I am who I am. And I'm in the position that I'm in. If you send me naked pictures of yourself, and somehow they get out, I'm not saying I would do it. I delete them, I ignore them, I don't fucking look, I go, and then I scroll away. Don't send me naked pictures of yourself. But if they get out somehow, you're going to be like, well, you were the only one that I sent them to. Fucking, don't send me naked pictures of yourself. Because, god damn it, when Facebook inevitably gets hacked, because they're now loaded down with naked girls, and you're going to be like, well, the only person I sent it to was you and Facebook. Don't send me naked pictures of yourself. Like, god damn it. Don't send me naked pictures. Don't send anybody. Across the board, don't send anybody naked pictures of yourself. What's wrong with you? Thank you very much for the naked pictures. Don't do it. It's awesome that you think so highly of me, that you would trust me so much. It's a bad move. Don't do that. Don't send naked pictures of yourself to people. Alright. I think I'm done. I'm just like, oh my god. I spend like 15 minutes telling you guys not to send naked pictures to anybody. And in 1 second I say send them to me. And that's what you take from. Every one of you. Every one of you. Just a trial. I love the trial. I like the test. I like the constant testing that goes along with being just associated in any form with women. But it's constant. You gotta give me a break. Like, it's constant. Alright. I think I'm done. This is how we rig the game, rig the game, rig the game. This is how we rig the game, so white people always lose.
Look, before we get into this video, I just want to note that obviously I'm really white. And when I talk about white people, I don't mean it in a those white people kind of way, like I'm somehow detached from that. When I say white people, I mean myself included. I just don't want it to come across as like, I'm one of the good ones, because I'm still learning how to combat racism and white supremacy myself. So, I hope that makes sense.
Riley? What doesn't make sense to me is the amount of videos that you've made where you say that it's okay to commit acts of violence against white people because they're white, and then you go, I'm talking about myself when I say white people too. Riley, I pray you're not a victim of your own stupidity.
Anyway, the point of this video is that not all white people bullshit.
Now see, I wanted to do this video for a slew of reasons. Because it's Riley, and I knew that doing a Riley video would get the people to watch. Hi, people. And I wanted the people to be watching when I made that heart-to-heart. So, a lot of this is to pump up views for that heart-to-heart. I'm using you, Riley. Sorry. I'm using you. It was you or Anision, and Anision's fucking boring. So, it's you, because you're still funny to me. Whatever. But the other reason is because the fucking not all shit. Every time I say anything, not all, and it's so dumb. The whole concept of it is dumb. Right? The whole concept of it is dumb. Because if you're making a broad generalization, like all white people are bad and racist, right? You're just an asshole. Period, end of sentence. You're just an asshole. That's just a dick statement. You're an asshole, right? There it is. But if you say something along the lines of, everybody in which I have encountered in my life has been this certain way. Like when I said, all women I've encountered are trial. I've made the grand generalization. I've decided to go with the dick move and say all women are a trial. Because I can't see myself losing that one. Sorry, I don't ever think I'm going to be proven wrong. And every time one of you guys says, I'll prove you wrong on that, you're being a fucking trial. So, right, I've rigged that game so I can't lose it. Kind of like Riley does. This is a very good video. Hits all sorts of places. But when I said, all the women I've ever worked with have stunk as workers, you telling me about all the people you worked with that were fantastic doesn't really change anything for me. So I like this one, but Riley only applies everything to white people. So we just have to bear that in mind as we struggle through this, and I try to make a coherent point out of it.
If you don't know what I mean, let me give you an example. Let's say a person of color experiences some kind of racism from a white person. In frustration, they say, white people are horrible. At this point, you can expect some kind of white person to pop up out of the bushes and scream, not all white people, you shouldn't generalize us like that. That's reverse racism.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say, that's kind of a dick thing to say. And I'd leave it at that.
These white people, the ones who constantly scream, not all white people, and reverse racism, argue that making a generalization about white people is just as bad as making a generalization about people of color. They think that saying white people are horrible is just as bad as saying black people are horrible. On like a total surface level, you might think, yeah, that makes sense. Those statements are both generalizations about a race. But if you look just a little bit harder at the cultural, social, political, and historical context that these phrases are said in, it's pretty easy to see that they are not equivalent statements.
See, this is how it's rigged. Because we want equality. We want people to be judged based on their merits. But we have to understand that because white people have strived for greatness for so long, achieved, sometimes on the backs of other people. Hey, I'll admit it. There have been bad people who have done bad things throughout time. But, yeah, it's because of all of that. That's why we always lose. Sorry, white people. You're in a fucking country that's predominantly white. And white people have reaped much of the benefit of being in that predominantly white country. So, you know, you always lose.
I mean, black people in the US were slaves, and then they were considered 3/5 of a person, and then they lived under Jim Crow segregation laws, and even today they still experience systemic racism on a daily basis.
See, what I think is funny is that we discuss how white people said that black people were 3/5 of a person, completely ignoring that white people finally said, yeah, that's kind of shitty, and changed the whole thing. And we talk about Jim Crow, and not about the white people that were like, yeah, fuck Jim Crow. We're not going to do that shit anymore. Just, like, why do we always have to be labeled with the shittiest aspect of everything being white? We didn't do anything good. Oh, wait. everything we did good was because black people. I forgot. Because everything we ever did was because of slavery. That's how we benefit from everything. Because everything was slavery. So we lose.
The prejudice and discrimination that was built into our institutions and systems didn't go away overnight with the Civil Rights Act of 1965. Racism and, by extension, white supremacy both still have a deep hold on this country.
Nah. For the most part, people are fucking tired of it. I, for one, am fucking tired of hearing about what a piece of shit I am. And I wish everybody would just go back to wanting to be individuals again. Like, that would be so sweet if I could just be an individual again. We worked so hard to be individuals, and then as soon as we became individuals, we became groups. What the fuck happened? Like, it was like a really fast summer that went by like that. Maybe 5 years where we were all actually just individuals and happy. And then we all decided we wanted to be part of groups again. What the fuck is wrong with us?
To be a person of color in the US today means to live under a system that was not only not built for you, but was built to harm you. If you don't believe that people of color are marginalized and oppressed in a way that white people are not, you're just being willfully ignorant at this point.
Every time she says shit like willfully ignorant and stuff like that, it just makes me laugh. She's sitting here. She's gonna actually spell it out for you later. It's hysterical. She's sitting here saying to you that because white people talked shit about black people for so long, and black people just took it, that's horrible and that's bad. And white people should be ashamed for that, because that's what led to enslavement and horrible mistreatment, because we dehumanized them. So just let us dehumanize you, white people, because you know it's not going to happen to you yet. But just let us dehumanize you. Just roll over and take it. No!
So I'm going to assume that we can all agree on this. If we can't agree, I don't think I'm going to be able to convince you, but there will be some links in the description if you'd like to challenge your worldview with some facts and statistics.
Riley, why don't you just once yourself try to challenge me with some facts or statistics?
Anyway, the point of all of this is just to give you some background for why generalizing statements about white people versus generalizing statements about black people are not equivalent. They don't exist in a vacuum. Black people in the US have been oppressed and continue to be oppressed in ways that white people will never fully be able to understand.
Not yet. Now, that was just the joke I was going to say there, but during the course of that, it hit me. I watch a lot of Riley videos. And Riley, a lot of the times, I've noticed a pattern. She says something along the lines of, I've provided you with a shit ton of links for facts and statistics, but this is just a setup for what's going on. She says that a lot. Why don't you ever read the statistics, Riley? It's very weird.
So when you say something in 2017, knowing everything that has happened up until now, your words live in the context of this time period, in this culture, in this political context. They can't be separated from that. So let's say you're a white person and you say, black people are horrible. In a greater context, you are a member of a group that oppressed black people for a long time and continues to do so today.
And we're also a part of the group that freed the slaves and is working towards equality for all people. And you're working to segregate us.
I can already hear the white people chiming in saying that they weren't alive during slavery, so they shouldn't be responsible for it. And like, sure, you're not directly responsible for slavery, but you continue to benefit from the oppression of black people, which has had its roots in slavery. That's a fact.
See, we continue to benefit. Man, I don't benefit from the cotton industry. And black people don't pick cotton anymore. So what the fuck? What the fuck? How am I benefiting Dude, I do plastic extrusions. How am I benefiting from racism? Because I'm working shoulder to shoulder with black people. Like, we're doing the same shit. They're higher ranked than I am in the company. They have seniority over me. They can tell me to do shit, and I gotta do it. How am I oppressing them? How am I benefiting from slavery? You say that shit, but you never ever answer that question. You never answer the question of where the fuck is my benefit from slavery. You never answer it. Why don't you ever answer that question?
And I know white people get really sensitive about this, and I get it. I used to be in middle school too. And I wanted to believe that I lived in a system that was fair and equal and didn't value me over someone else just because of the color of my skin. But then I grew up and I realized that racism was still very much alive.
That's the kind of shit you were worried about in middle school? The fuck is wrong with you?
So I'm not saying that white people need to hate themselves or have guilt over this. I just think we need to recognize our role as people who have benefited from racism and who are a part of a group that has oppressed and continues to oppress black people.
I don't think you should feel guilty. I just think you should understand all the things that you have to feel guilty for. Whatever.
And then we need to work to fight against that. And part of what that means is that when you, as a white person, say black people are horrible, your words are just perpetuating the oppression of black people that white people have been doing for a long time.
Nah. You're just an asshole.
You're continuing that racist cycle. You're adding fuel to the fire. On the other hand, if a black person says white people are horrible, it doesn't have that weight behind it. The power dynamics are completely different. It doesn't perpetuate systemic racism. It doesn't result in the institutional oppression of white people. It's just an expression of anger against an oppressor group. That's all there is to it.
Nah. You're just an asshole.
The two statements don't carry the same weight or historical context. For centuries, white people insulting black people has led to their enslavement, disenfranchisement, and oppression. Meanwhile, black people insulting white people hasn't had anywhere near the same impact on white people.
Not yet!
They're just on completely different levels. And it's painfully simplistic to avoid all social, political, cultural, and historical context just to make these statements seem comparable. The best analogy I can think of to demonstrate this kind of power dynamic in a really simple way is this.
I want to pause for one moment. And I want to reiterate that this, the proceeding, is the best example that she was able to come up with. Bear that in mind as you listen.
Imagine there's a queen and a peasant. Obviously the queen has a lot of power and the peasant does not have a lot of power. Now the peasant can point at the queen and say, throw her in jail, and it won't have any effect. The guards aren't going to listen to a peasant. But if the queen points to the peasant and says, throw her in jail, then the guards will listen and the peasant will end up in jail. Both parties said the same phrase directed towards the other one, but one of those phrases had a lot more power because of the context. One of those phrases put someone in jail and the other one did not. If you ignore the context of a situation, you miss a huge chunk of the story. If I told you that story, but I just said there were two people who each shouted at the other one, throw her in jail, without any context, you'd probably be confused as to why only one of them ended up in jail. That's because you'd be ignoring the power that each person had or didn't have and the general context behind it all.
It's just the stupidity. It's succulent. It's fall off the bone stupid. So juicy. This is dumbest fucking comparison. White people are the queen in that instance. So white people have the power to just simply point at a black person and go arrest that man. And it happens. It just tastes so good.
That's why reverse racism isn't a thing. Because systemic racism hurts and oppresses people of color, not white people.
Nah. Reverse racism isn't a thing, 'cause it's all just fucking racism.
While people can certainly be rude or prejudiced towards white people, that still doesn't mean that white people face systemic oppression in anywhere near the same way that people of color do.
Dude, you seriously, like in all seriousness, Riley, you need to go out and get a for real job, like a for real adult job. Get a job where you're gonna get dirty. Get a job where you're gonna get sweaty. Get a dirty, sweaty job. I don't care what it is. Go out there and get a for real fucking job. I think you really should see what the real world is really like. 'Cause holy shit.
Okay, so context matters when it comes to generalizations, but also when white people say not all white people, they're usually taking a complaint about racism and making it about themselves.
Now, here we're getting back into the point that I ultimately want to make. Riley just focuses on white people. I want to spread this across the board. When you say, well, I know a lady that's a great worker, you're making it about yourself. You're ignoring the fact that I'm a victim. I've had to work with all these shitty women. Why am I not seeing as a goddamn victim? I'm the asshole. Because I'm pointing out that all the women I've ever worked with suck. And you're working with all these great fucking women telling me all about it, about how awesome it is. You're making me jealous.
The only time I've heard generalizations from people of color about white people has been after a person of color has experienced some kind of racism. So, for example, let's say a person of color on Twitter tweets something about systemic racism. In response, they get a bunch of ignorant white people replying and calling them racial slurs and saying that racism doesn't exist and all of that.
Yeah, you're gonna have that. And those people are all assholes.
In response, they say something to the effect of, I am so tired of white people. They're horrible. And that's when the not all white people crowd comes in. Some white person pops up and says, not all white people are like that. I'm one of the good ones. In this way, all that saying not all white people does is absolve that white person of any guilt and make the situation about.
See? Now, remember, I'm applying it across the board. Riley just hates white people. I'm saying across the board, that's not even fair. Riley doesn't hate white people. She just thinks, and she's including herself, she's a racist fucking piece of shit too. So that was unfair of me to say, I apologize. But, across the board, he just make it about you. He minimize the fact that I've suffered. I've had to work with all these shitty women.
Them. Why do you have a need to insert yourself there and defend yourself? It doesn't make the situation any better. It doesn't get rid of the racist nonsense that that person has had to endure, and it doesn't challenge it either. It's just a very indifferent, don't worry, we're not all like that, which isn't too reassuring, I'd imagine, since that doesn't negate all the racist bullshit that person gets.
That was exactly my argument. Just because you've worked with fantastic women doesn't mean all of a sudden the women I've worked with weren't shitty. They're still fucking shitty. It's a silly argument. The whole not everybody. It's a dumb thing to point out. Okay, it muddies the argument. For those of you who watched when I talked about Onision and Joy's debate, they were constantly throwing little side paths to just fucking muddy the discussion. That's what it does. Every time you come out with not all, it's not. Well, what was it that they did that was so shitty? Because it's not, well, I want to improve myself. So what was it that those people did that you thought was so shitty? Because if I'm doing that and I don't realize that other people think that's shitty, I want to stop doing that. No. Nobody's taking accountability for the possibility that they might be shitty and not realize it. Which is entirely possible, right? But it's no, not me. That doesn't help. That doesn't change anything. I'm a victim here.
It's just a way of making yourself feel better, and I've never seen it improve a situation or combat racism in any way. I understand that you want to defend yourself and you feel like when someone makes a comment about white people that it affects you. But the truth of the matter is that you're going to be just fine. Generalizations about white people are not going to hurt you. They're not going to contribute to unfair housing discrimination against you or lead to a racial hiring bias against you because you're white.
Not yet!
Remember, context matters. White people are not hurt by generalizations about white people in the same way that people of color are hurt by generalizations about people of color. Unarmed black people are shot by police regularly because of the generalization that they're violent and dangerous. White people don't have a comparable generalization that affects them like that. There's no comparison.
You're right. There is no comparison. Because the police kill white people a lot more than they kill black people. Just saying. I mean, I don't want to throw out facts and statistics or nothing. I ain't even gonna link it. I'm gonna make you guys just get angry because I use show statistics. So you're gonna have to go and look it up. And boy, when you see it, won't you be red in the face?
So I get that your feelings as a white person might be a little hurt by a generalization about you, but it's not going to result in any real-world systemic bias against you. So stop trying to downplay the frustrations of people of color by saying not all white people. Just let it go. If you're a white person who's genuinely working towards anti-racism, then I don't think you would feel the need to assert not all white people at every chance you get, because you would know better than to center your own feelings in these discussions.
You can't win. It's impossible. You can't win. No matter what, you're white. By virtue of your skin tone, you are less than. Because white people, a long time ago, thought that by virtue of a person's skin color, they were less than. You are now less than by virtue of your skin color. Is this what it felt like? I understand now. I get it. I get it. It must have been horrible being a black person. So how about we just get over it? And fucking move on. And let's all just be people again. It was so great. Does anybody else remember that? It was like a good 5-year span where everybody was just people. Nobody gave a shit. Like it was when Will and Grace and Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, when they were on TV, and Friends, and everybody was just having a good time and enjoying life, and everything was so fantastic. Or was I just, in my early 20s and missing all of it? I don't know. But it seemed at some point like everybody was just people. Everybody was so happy. And then everybody wanted to be in groups all of a sudden again. And it was like we just forced everybody to not see us in groups. And now we're willingly going back into groups. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Whatever. Hey. I'm not a part of any of these groups. I don't like the group think. I don't like the group mentality. I'd rather go, yeah, there were white people that did bad things, but there were white people that did great things that eventually canceled out the greater portion of the bad things. And what we're left with now is the fact that everybody's still concerning themselves with it. Because it's not always the reason. Sometimes it is. And when it is, it's pretty fucking blatant. And you can go, what was that? But when it's sketchy and you kind of go, it might be. But, it's... No. I know. I benefit from slavery, so I'm bad. you.